Hi, I'm your host, Beth Renoff, and this is Are You Afraid of the Talk? Join me as I shine a light on the difficult conversations we keep in the dark. Follow the journeys of everyday people as they share their struggles with talking about different topics, from personal problems to societal issues. My hope is to get to the root of what holds people back from initiating these discussions and normalize these conversations by having them. So, are you afraid of the talk? I'm Beth Renoff, your podcast host, and today with me I have Lauren. She's 39 from Brooklyn, and she's here to join us and shine a light on what she's afraid to talk about. So, hi, Lauren.
Hi, Beth. Thanks for having
Thank you
me.
for coming on. So I like to start out with a little bit of an icebreaker to get things going. So, if you could be
Okay.
famous, what would you be famous for?
Well, I think like my entire life I've gone through like a few different daydreams of like what I would want to be famous for.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for a long time I wanted to be like a musician who like writes her own stuff and is a big producer and like cross genre and makes so many albums. And so
Platinum.
yes, Avi. Or like maybe I wanted to be like an athlete, like probably like a famous tennis player,
Mm-hmm.
who like changes the game and like is so into like equal pay for women and like all that stuff. But I think my most recent one,
Mm-hmm.
what I want to be famous for, is like being a celebrity chef. I
Ooh.
just like absolutely love like Food Network. I love cooking. I love all of that. And in my head, like I have these daydreams of me having like my own show and being famous. And like I'd want to be like a sexy chef, a little bit like Giada with my tits out. Can I curse on
Yeah,
here?
you could say whatever you want.
Okay, good. Like I definitely want to be like a sexier chef, but a good chef, like
Uh-huh.
that's like respected and properly trained. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, like I think that right now at 39, if I was to be famous, I'd want to be famous at 39 for being a chef and just being like awesome and changing the game and having all these cool celebrity chef friends and my own show and everyone's like, "Oh my God, love what you make and you're so good." Blah, blah, blah. Like I think that's
Right.
that's what I'm
I
going
love
for these
that.
days.
So, what do you think has made you change your dreams or fantasies over the years? Like,
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's like just like how I guess just like what you're into at the moment. Like at the moment, I'm married now and, we're thinking about starting a family.
Mhm.
And so obviously COVID, we spent so much time at home and like I feel like I really honed in on like my cooking skills. I'm
Mhm.
cooking so much more. Um, I'm obviously like trying to be healthy as well. So I'm trying to put like a healthy spin on like food. So I think at the moment, just where my life is, and I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I think more than that, I really enjoy it. Like I don't see it as a chore.
Mhm.
I actually really enjoy like cooking, and I think especially at the end of a long day, like I actually enjoy like forgetting about the world and like having a task at hand and just like being in the kitchen and cooking something.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, when we're younger, what we experience, like we were into going out, we were into like hip hop, we were into music and going to concerts, like, and, that's where our head was at. So that kind of like goes along with our dreams, right? So it's like the older you
Totally.
get, the more experience, like your different experiences, like leads to different dreams and goals and how you evolve. So I love that. Um, so now to kind
I'm still into hip hop, by the way.
Okay.
That hasn't
Well,
changed.
I don't think you wanna
Just
be a hip hop star anymore.
no, I don't think so. I no, that wouldn't be a good look for me right now. No.
I mean, I could kinda see it, but
Hmm.
if you wanna let that dream go, I'll let it fly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, now to kinda get into the meat of it. So, we talked about, you're married, and I feel like what is something, like, easy to talk about for you? Like, it was really easy to be like, "I'm married," like, "I work." Like, what are easy topics for you and why?
Um, yeah, I guess easy topics are just like talking about life as like a newlywed, and I think that's pretty easy. I guess I'm still a newlywed. I don't know. It's past 6 months. I don't know when I need to stop using that term, but I'm going to continue to do it. Um, but yeah, I think just just us and like kind of now we're semi-emerging from the pandemic and we're living our life and we have our apartment in Brooklyn and we're able to go out for dinner and stuff like that. I think like the joys that come with being married and being newlyweds, that's something that's definitely easy to talk about. And I think we're fortunate enough, like knock on wood, that like we both have fairly good lives and we're both pretty happy in our jobs and we have our routine down and we have great friends and great, obviously great, great family and stuff. We're able to travel. So like at the moment, I'd say, things are going pretty well, right? So which I guess is a segue into what my fear is. I
Mhm.
don't know if like
Yeah, go for
that's the
it.
direction we were going.
Yes, yeah.
But I would say, yeah, I mean, we're at a place in our lives now. I mean, we're also a bit old, well, older, and
Mhm.
you know, uh, having a family or trying to start to have a family is definitely a priority for us. And you know, that's something that like we both want. We talked about it before we got married. We're both on the same page, but there is an absolute fear that comes with that. And I think,
Mhm.
for me, it's how much things are going to change once we do become parents. And I
Mhm.
think it's that fear of kind of losing your life and losing yourself, and losing all the great things that like bring you joy and happiness. And obviously, the most obvious answer to that would be, well, you have a baby and you're going to be happy and you're a mom, blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm hoping that's how I
Mhm.
feel. But at the same time, like, what if I don't feel like that? I think that to me is a really big fear. And, Miles, my husband and I, we make jokes about it. Like, well, we're not going to be able to do this when we like get
Mhm.
pregnant or when we have a baby, we're not going to be able to do this. Like, there's some stupid things, like I'm no longer going to be able to go out on a Saturday night and drink 3 bottles of wine, wake up hungover on a Sunday, and lay on the couch all day. Like,
Mhm.
okay, fine. I think like that is silly and I could give that up. But I think, you know, the the thought of just being like carefree and maybe sometimes a little bit careless,
Mhm.
that is something that I'm not going to be able to do anymore. And I don't mean just like going out, but
Mhm.
just there are just like little things like this morning, for example, it's Saturday morning. Like for 20 years, I've had the same Saturday morning ritual, which is I wake up, I watch my Food Network for a few hours, and then I go do a workout. Like
Mhm.
I've been doing that for as long as I can remember.
Mhm.
And it's silly, but it's something that like at the end of a long week, it does bring me so much joy. Like it's just a way for me just to like chill out, like watch my TV for a little bit, and like start my day out on like a high note with my workout.
Mhm.
And the thought of like me not being able to do that, and I know it kind of sounds really selfish, but at the same time, it is a real fear of mine. Like the little things in life, that bring you happiness, the
Mhm.
little routines that you have, the fact that that could potentially like completely be non-existent anymore is certainly like a fear that I have, if and when, knock on wood, we do have kids. And I think it's for men, it's like they always say that they joke about it, like I'm gonna lose my life, like oh my God. And we laugh about it. But I don't think as women we talk about it
Mhm.
because we're probably not supposed to, because we're supposed to want to be mothers and like we're supposed to want to give up our life and become a mother and just be obsessed with our kid. And like, I hope that's how I'm going to be. I really do. I've
Mhm.
always wanted to be a mom. It's not like this is, new for me or like I don't know if I want to have a family. Like I know I absolutely do. I think also when you're older, I think it's even harder because I've been having the same routines for 20 years. I've been doing the same thing. I lived what maybe some people would say is a selfish life, and I love my life, and I love being selfish, and I love traveling when I want, and going away when I want, and going out to dinner when I want, and doing whatever I want when I want, how I want, and fuck, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
be able to do that anymore.
Well, I think you bring up like a really good point is like we're just ingrained to think like this is what are supposed to want. And so like for me when I hear like you say all this like it's not silly to have that routine and need that self-care at the end of a week. that's actually like super important, and that's how you're okay and why you have such a great lifestyle, and it's not selfish for you to have things in your life that you want and love, and to be able to do that. That's society telling you you're selfish because you should want all these things. And I think because we're older, like, we've had more time to think about what will my life look like, rather than getting married young, getting pregnant, and that's just your life. Like, we have time to like think, wait, my life's going to really drastically change. I'm older and know myself better, and I've known myself without children, and how do I wrap my head around a transition that is this big when I've lived this many years doing what I want because I've had the freedom to, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that we have to think it's selfish to like want our lives, I think, is the problem.
I agree. Like, I absolutely feel guilty saying that out
Mhm.
loud, but
Mhm.
secretly, obviously, like, I'm thinking about it because it's
Mhm.
a real fear that I have. And maybe I'll have a kid and like everything will change and I'll just like, I won't care about all the things that brought me happiness and my happiness will come from somewhere else.
Mhm.
And maybe that will be the case. Lovely. That'd be great. But
Mhm.
what if it doesn't? And like
Right.
I just miss my life and maybe I'm a little bit resentful and like not resentful of the baby, but just like, I don't know, just really missing the person that I used to be. And like, I don't want to become one of those people that like only, I also don't want to become boring and just like be that person that like just could only talk about their kids and
Mhm.
like it's a baby, 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 baby. Like, I don't want to be like that. And it also, we're going to be obviously like a two income household. We have to
Mhm.
be. And then you just think like, oh my gosh, my life is going to be work baby, like work baby, and that's it. And that
Mhm.
is a scary, scary thought. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know that I'm ready for that.
Mhm.
I would imagine I'm not alone. I think a lot of people probably feel the same way I do, but
Mhm.
God, fuck, I'm scared, like I am. That's the truth.
Mhm. And I think that's a really legitimate fear, and I think probably I feel it. Like, I go back and forth every day. I'm like, I like hear my niece scream, like she's been screaming all night. I'm like, yeah, I don't want that.
No thanks.
Yeah, like I'm good like sleeping in. And I think that's like, listen, we are creatures of habit too. And what you're saying, it is probably going to happen. You shed who you are as like who you were before you're a baby. Does it mean that you have to turn into a boring person? No. I think that is totally a legitimate fear, because that's also what's on TV, and what you see a lot of people doing is like only posting their children, only talking to you about their kids. When you're like, then they get friends who are just like friends with their kids' parents,
Yeah.
so you kind of feel ostracized in a way where it's like, well, if I don't have a kid, am I going to have this life?
Yeah.
And that's really, really difficult to wrap your head around. And I'm a social worker, so I do therapy with people, and I've had a lot of clients be like, it's really hard to like introduce myself to the new me after they give birth, and it's a process. But I don't think happiness comes from one place. So I think maybe the things that used to make you happy, it wasn't one thing, right? So
Mhm.
it's going to be new things that are introduced to you that bring you joy. Your baby is certainly going to bring you joy at times, and also going to make you want to scream your head off at times.
Yeah, totally. And I'm totally not going to be like one of those mothers that like have it all together and like, because like
I
we
don't think
just,
anyone does.
yeah, no, and you see it online, and that's the misconception is that like people have it all
Right.
together and they're still like working out and like catching up with
Mhm.
people and like they just like the baby just fits so easily into their life and they're like
Mhm.
not stressed. I just know like I'm just gonna be like really angry, stressed, like kind of person who
Mhm.
like is so in over her head, like doesn't know what she's doing and
Mhm.
freaking out all the time and just trying, I suppose, to make it from one day to the next.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know, but it's still scary for sure.
Yeah. And I can tell you one thing my therapist told me is, she's like, you're already a good mom in the fact that you're thinking about this and how it's going to affect your child's life, how it's going to affect your life. And that's what a good mom does, is wonder, I don't want these things to affect my baby and my life and my happiness. I want to live like a really fulfilled life. Is this right for me? And I don't think many people get the chance to actually think about that. So I think what you're doing, as scary as it feels that way partly because you're checking in with yourself and you're being honest with yourself. It doesn't mean you're going to be like, "Hey, I don't want a kid anymore." But I think it's preparing you for understanding this is a huge change in your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, no, I think you're so right. I think I just need to know that like change is coming, and I've never been somebody who like is scared of change. I'm actually like very good at adapting.
Mhm.
And so I like I said, like I'm hopeful everything's going to change. I'm hopeful that my happiness is going to be from like having a family and all the joy
Mhm.
that comes with having a baby. And I have no doubt that I'm going to be like that.
Mhm.
Um I'm still gonna miss like God, traveling and like just doing every
Mhm.
just having that life and that freedom and
Mhm.
having that carefree just mentality going forward. And maybe I won't even care, like I won't even miss that old Lauren. Like I'll just be like, oh, whatever,
Mhm.
like she was fun. And look, I've had most of like that kind of carefree lifestyle for the past 15 years or more. So like great. Like maybe
Mhm.
I'll just be like, I've lived that life. Like that Lauren was great, had a great time, like
Mhm.
100% ready to move on.
Mhm.
Um, that's what I'm hoping. So
Yeah.
TBD, let's see.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's like you can be intentional about making time for that. Like, okay, like Miles's parents don't live in this country, so you don't have the same kind of help maybe that someone has who has two sets of grandparents here. But if you want to travel, I'm sure your parents or you'll figure out how to either leave the baby here so you could have like a quick trip or you could take the baby. There are so many people who travel with their babies and maybe traveling is just gonna look different,
No,
right?
I agree. I mean, I'm like 105% positive that I'm not going to be one of those people that like can't leave the baby at home and like has to bring them
Right.
everywhere. Like I'm pretty sure that like I'm going to be traveling without my kids quite
Yeah,
often, maybe to the extent that
yeah.
people are like, she kind of travels a little bit too much without her kids. But like I'm like very confident that I will be leaving my kids at home. That's what grandparents are for. But yes, I agree. It would be nice to bring my kid. I mean, I have a massive fear of bringing a baby on a plane, like
Mhm,
terribly so. Like I can't have like all those eyes on me and all that judgment, and like think that's
mhm.
probably like one of my biggest fears of like
Mm,
having a baby is just like it's too much anxiety. Like I already told Miles, like I can't do that. Like I just,
mhm.
oh my God, that's just the thought of it. Like makes me like my armpits sweat. Like it's just like, oh my
Right.
God, too much.
Well, what about it makes you what are you fearing people are judging you about?
Like having a kid on a plane because I judge every parent who has a kid that's loud on a plane. I mean, I'm just because of myself, like just because how I am
Mhm.
and how I've been.
And I think you bring up a really good point. I think when we're often afraid of judgment of others, it's because we're judging ourselves.
Mm,
We've judged other people, so we just assume others are gonna judge us, but what does it matter for you if someone else is judging you because you don't have control over that?
no, that's true. Absolutely. And I feel like even if they were to say something like, I'm a fighter and I'm computational, I'd be like, yeah, you want to go? Like, let's go. Mofo. Yeah, I'll fight you. I'll fight you on a plane. Yeah, you think I'll stand down? Hell no, I won't. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I guess you're right. I think judgment is one. That's such a good point. When like judgment 1000% comes from the fact that like you're your worst critic and like you're your biggest judge and like
Mhm.
yeah, I because I'm exact. That's exactly like how I am. Like giving people dirty looks when like their baby. Like you don't ever
Mhm.
want to be that person on a plane, like sitting in the window seat, and then you see a mom and like
Mhm.
a little baby come and sit next to you. Like, oh my God. Like everybody, like when that mother is walking through the aisle and about to sit down, like everyone has the same thought, like, please God, do not sit next to me. Right. We're all thinking that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Like the thought that I may be on the other side of that and then being like, oh my God, everyone hates
Mm.
me, you know? So I don't know. I mean, it's so
Well,
stupid,
and
but
I well, it's not stupid. And like, you know, you often tell yourself, this is silly, this is stupid, and they're not stupid fears, right? And maybe if we could just be more compassionate with ourselves, our fears wouldn't be so big, right? So it's like, okay, let's stop judging ourselves. Like, okay, if someone gets on the plane and doesn't want me to sit next to them with my baby, tough luck.
Yeah,
It's like, and maybe it'll help you be more compassionate next time you're on a plane,
yeah,
right?
that's a good
So,
point. Yeah,
is like that helps to build empathy.
yeah.
And I think when we like look at these things and our fears, and it sounds like maybe like the judgment also is fear of how you're going to be as a mom, and maybe you're judging yourself and really afraid, like at the root of it is like, am I going to be a good mom?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that like all the time, and like, like how many mistakes am I going to make? And like, you're so scared of like making the wrong choice or the wrong decision, or like, how you react. I'm a very reactive person, right? Like, I
Mhm.
think you and I kind of share that quality. And, it's
No,
both,
not at all.
and it's both good, but it's bad. Like, I overreact. I mean, I overreact
Uh-huh.
all the time. And like, I hope that
Right.
I don't do that as a mom. Like, I think you hear so many people like say, oh, like when they became a mom, they found like now all of a sudden they're so much more patient. Like they had no
Mhm.
patience before, and now they're like super patient. And I'm just like, how
Mhm.
does that happen? Like I can't. I'm such an impatient person. Like I feel like I rush,
Mhm.
rush, 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 like all the time. And like, will I change? Am I going to do a 180? That's something like that is so hard for me to like comprehend.
Mhm.
Like I can't see myself not being impatient, but it happens to other people. Like maybe it'll happen to me. I don't know.
Right. Well, I think life experiences change who you are and how you react. I know with Archie, my dog, it's not the same as a baby, but he's really sick right now. And I find myself when I'm in real crisis, I am the most calm and patient. But it's like when there's a dish left in the sink, I go berserk. Like, I mean, I think that's just like we go go go, and I think as a parent, you go go go. You have to keep it together for your kid. They're the priority. You kind of come second. So it's like, well, what is in their best interest, right? So you learn to adapt, and probably, and you are going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're human, right? And there is no perfect mom. I think any mom out there has been like, oh my God, I've definitely screwed my kids up, but I've done the best I can, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And and in therapy there's like this whole stigma that, oh, we're just going to like blame the parents, and yes, some of your stuff does come from parents because they're human beings and they don't have a guide on how to like raise you, but at some point you take responsibility for yourself if you want to change something,
Yeah.
right? So the fear that you're really going to screw up your kid, unless you're doing something really damaging to them, you're not going to. And yes, you're going to impact them, and maybe some decisions aren't going to be the right. Like, I don't think it was probably great that my dad took my brother as a 6-year-old to see movies where there were breasts everywhere and cursing, but has that screwed him up for life? I don't think
Yeah.
so. So I think it's you being really hard on yourself. And what I hear coming out of this is you need to be more compassionate about where you are. What you're doing is exactly right. Like you're doing everything right and thinking about these things, and understanding how your life's going to change, what you don't want to let go of, and what maybe you're welcoming into your life. You go through kind of a grief process when you have a baby, even though it's such a joyful thing, because you're losing part of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really amazing point that you bring up, and be fearing talking about this, and like what has stopped you from talking about this before or bringing this up in conversation?
I just don't think people want to hear it, I suppose. Like, I guess when you speak to your friends or people that are moms, like, maybe people do feel the same that way that I do, but I think everyone just like loves being a mom. Like they love everything. And they'll say it's hard and they'll have challenging days, but like I don't think it's just a common thing to share your fears. It's a bit like almost taboo to
Hmm.
talk about stuff like that. And so
Hmm.
I just think that's how society is programmed. Like you don't want to talk
Hmm.
about it. Like I wouldn't I'm sharing it obviously with you and whoever, is going to listen to this now, but I'd say it's like the first time I probably said a lot of the stuff out loud because Like, I wouldn't wanna tell my mom
Mhm.
that. I feel like my mom would be like, "Really, Lauren? Like, what's wrong with you?" Like, that's just how society
Mhm.
is. Like, I think they just don't
Mhm.
it should just be assumed that, like, I'm going to absolutely love being a mom in this new stage of my life, and, like, I'm not gonna miss anything else, and I'm gonna adapt
Mhm.
to it so easily, and this, that, and the other, and I think just people don't wanna talk it's just people don't wanna talk about it. I think that's really what it is. Until now, until your podcast, so thank you for bringing it to light.
Yeah, well, I think again, I fear people are gonna judge me,
Yeah.
right? And we don't know what really I think it's not brought up because I think when we see people, especially in a pandemic, the first thing you wanna talk about is, "How are you? How's everything going?" We're not like, "Hey, what are your deep-seated fears?" You know, like but I think when we're talking, like, I feel the same exact way as you, and we don't talk about this. And why is this something we're going through very similar stages in our life? Why aren't we talking about it? And it's like, why is there this judgment on someone if they're not super psyched to like go into motherhood and change their body and like get rid of all the things that have made them comfortable for so long? I think that's a really human, normal
No,
thing.
absolutely, and we haven't even touched on the body issue, and, like, that is, like, a whole separate fear that, like, I'm packaging
Hmm.
away because, like, I spent so much time, like, trying to not be a fat bride, and the thought that, like, I'm going or I may put on a lot of weight and then, like, just be, like, full fat. Oh god, that's scary as fuck. I mean, that's just
Hmm.
something I'm gonna have to accept and, like, change it if I'm able to, but oof, boy.
Right. Well, I mean your body's going to change. Your body's going to change either way. It's like and I think that's something I come to learn. Like my body's changed since I'm 30. Certainly,
Damn, like, mine
and not even,
too.
and not like I mean I was not skinny then either, but just even how things feel in my body is just differently, right? So it's like it's inevitable. We're never going to be like young always, but you can always like you are so diligent and I commend you so much. Are one of the most determined people. You are so disciplined. So if you set your mind to something, like I think even as a mom, you're going to be able to do it. And like you said earlier, like cooking and having a healthy twist on it, you're going to be like the best mom, like making all this delicious healthy food and you're going to eat it too. Miles is going to eat it too. So I think it's all going to come together because as we were talking, like your interests change. So as you have a family, if that is what you guys decide you want and you have a child, like these things are going to be more of an interest to you. You're going to figure out ways to make it work. And fears are just what they are. They're fears. And the anticipation of the fear happening is worse, I think, sometimes than the actual
No,
experience.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I completely agree. And one of the it's so random, but like one of the things I think about so often and I'm so excited about to be a mom is like that 6 month mark, I think 6 months, when you could start feeding
Hmm.
your baby actual food. And like I cannot wait
Hmm.
to see their reaction to like certain foods. Like to me, like
Yeah.
I get, like, so happy to think about something like that, and it's such a silly thing, but, like, every day or I don't know how often you're supposed to do it, I guess I should read up on it before I actually do it, but, like, every day, like, trying a new food, like, are they gonna like avocado and banana and, and, like, seeing their
Right.
reaction, like, I honestly think that's, like, one of the things I'm most excited about. It's just, like, introducing
Yeah.
them to things like that.
Yeah. So it's like there are things you're excited about, and maybe you're gonna open your own baby food company.
Ugh,
Like you never know.
wow. Oh my God. That's a thought. I do want to open my own company and work for myself, but I've been struggling to
Yeah.
find something. So I'm gonna steal that idea and go for it.
Yeah. I think of that movie from the 80s with Diane Keaton, Baby Boom, where she makes like she has like the applesauce and she like gets this baby and like opens like basically Gerber. But I could totally see you doing that though. So I think everything's going to come together. I think it's just being able to talk about these fears so that they don't stand in the way of you getting what you want, right? And learning to sit with them and understand that they are just fears, they're thoughts. They do have power, but you can overcome them. You can sit with it and be like, this is uncomfortable because it's change. And all my fears are valid, right? It's not like you're this crazy person and nothing you've said is silly or stupid or irrelevant. Like it's very real, it's very human. And I really thank you for opening up and sharing that, because I think that's going to help a lot of people to be like, wow, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who has to question this. Like, I'm so happy, like, I heard someone else saying this. And that is such like a gift to someone
Yeah.
else.
Well, I already I feel like a little bit of a weight's been like lifted off my chest just like talking about it because even though I do
Hmm.
talk about it with my husband, I think we talk about it more in like joking way, right? It's like, oh my God, we're not like
Right.
he said to me the other day, he was like, you're not gonna be able to watch Housewives like when you're a mom. And I was like, no, like the thought of my life without like all the housewives, which does bring me a lot of happiness. Like, oh my God, I like semi freaked out. I'm like, no, I can't like live my life. I can't imagine my life like not being able to watch Housewives. But we joke about it. But I guess like to actually like be serious about it and talk about it and open up about it,
Right.
then it feels good. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So do you think now that you've spoken about it, it's going to be easier to talk about with other
Yeah,
people?
I think so. I mean, I guess like I don't know, like I yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess I could start like broaching the subject with like some of my friends who are moms already and kind of sharing my fears with
Hmm.
them and then seeing their reaction and like hopefully they will say, yeah,
Hmm.
like I had similar fears and so I guess that's a good place to start maybe.
Absolutely. And I think you're going to be surprised at how many people felt the same
Yeah.
way.
I'm hope so. I'm hopeful that that'll be the case for sure.
Right. And just on like an ending note, what is something from your lived experience, like if you could like go back 10 years and tell yourself, or just something that looking back, like was really important to you, or advice you could give someone else, um, like kind of the hindsight advice?
Um, I suppose if I could tell myself something like 10 years ago, it probably would be to try to live more in the moment. Like I said before, like
Hmm.
I do sometimes feel like I'm trying to rush through everything and I don't
Hmm.
actually appreciate things as they happen. Like I don't actually like stop what I'm doing and like look around and like really appreciate it or like a great night out or a great experience or seeing something new for the first time, like you're just like, oh my God, I got a picture for the gram or like whatever. But like to really
Hmm.
actually take a minute and like appreciate it. And I've been trying to do that more. And
Hmm.
I think I've become more cognizant of that like over the past few years. But I feel like 10 year ago, like 29-year-old Lauren, like was probably not like that. Like I was probably just like rushing
Hmm.
through life in like this fast city and just like whatever and like not actually appreciating and taking the moment to take it all in. So that is what I would tell myself.
Wholeheartedly agree. I think we were just so intent on getting like
Yeah.
married and finding our person that we were just like, everything sucks, but we had so much fun. We traveled. We all lived like right next door to each other. We could go out during the week and hang out and have fun. And we lived in probably the greatest city in the entire world. And I don't think we appreciated that as much as we could have, because we were so in the
Yeah.
future, and like, what's my life going to look like? When am I going to get married? When am I going to have a family? Rather than be like, we're on a journey. There's really no destination. It's like, what experiences am I going to have? Who is it going to be with? And like, where am I right now? And here's like a little tip for everybody. And what we're really talking about is mindfulness, is like being where you are, being still, and taking in everything in your senses. So if you have a feeling like you're thinking about the past or you're in the future and you're somewhere where this is something that you should be taking in, it's called the 5 4 3 2 1 exercise. So you look around and point out 5 things you can see, 4 things you could touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And it kind of brings you back in the moment. So even that like 30-second thing that you're doing is going to, at least you're present for 30 seconds. So it like helps kind of, move that process along so it becomes
That's
more
awesome.
automatic.
I never knew about that exercise. I'm totally going to use that in practice, like
Mhm.
going forward. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. This was so great. And this is, in full disclosure, one of my best friends for probably 20 years. And I've never had this conversation with her. So, we learn something new about people every day. And it's, just really to show everybody you never know what someone's going through. You never know what someone's thinking. And you're probably not alone. So, thank you, Lauren, for helping us shine a light on that dark conversation that was probably ruminating in your head for some time. And I'm glad it feels better to get it off your chest. And hopefully, this will allow you to be able to have more conversations about this and help you to feel better about it.
Absolutely. I feel like so much better. I'm so glad I talked about it. And thanks for having me on, Bethy.
Of course. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.